Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the second session of our online event discussing development in the management of digital technology in shipping, sponsored by Ankeri, Cordel Biomont, and Orca AI. In this session, we have two speakers connected here with us. I'm happy to introduce you to Adne Fogstad-Kaldestad, Cybersecurity Manager at GoToOcean, and Kristen Aspelund, CEO and co-founder of Ankeri. The moderator of this session, again, is Carl Jeffrey, the founding editor of Digital Ship. And I think we are ready to dive deep into the conversation.
Okay, so what we're going to look at is two of the most difficult areas of digital technology management in shipping. I think that's cybersecurity and emissions data, which people often call environmental, social, and governance data, or ESG. So if you work in shipping IT, you'll be very familiar with both of them. I was thinking when we did our practice session yesterday that they're kind of opposite, really, because cybersecurity is about making sure people can't see data, and ESG is making sure people can see it, but of course the challenges are very different. So we've got two presentations today, about 15 minutes each. First on cybersecurity and second on ESG data. We're going to take a few questions after the cybersecurity talk, but most of the questions will be at the end. But you can put in your questions in the Q&A box at any time, and maybe the speakers can also answer them by type while we're going. So for the cybersecurity talk, we're going to hear from Odne Fogstad-Kaldestad, who's the cybersecurity manager with G2Ocean. They're a joint venture of two of the world's largest open hatch ship owning companies, Gearbulk and Grieg Maritime Group, based in Bergen. And then second, we're going to go to Iceland, and we're going to hear from Kristin Aspelund, who's the CEO and co-founder of Ankeri, who's going to give advice about the best way to build data infrastructure for environmental, social governance, particularly for giving data to charterers. So I'll introduce Odne's talk now. So we're going to talk about ways to increase threat detection and better ways to respond to threats, which is going to lead to better cybersecurity resilience in your company. Odne joined the company in 2019 after a 6-year career as cybersecurity engineer at ABB. So I'd like to invite Odne to give the talk. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction. I'll try do the regular sharing issues. Let's try to avoid that.
Yes.
All right. I think we're ready. Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to do a talk on how to do threat detection and incident response within 15 minutes. I think this is it can be quite a difficult task to accomplish all the things that I believe needs to go into this talk in such a small time. But we're going to keep it a bit high level, and I'm going to give you some insights into how we are doing things and what I believe is important, and what we need to prepare for in order to be capable of standing in a situation where we are in a cyber attack or dealing with threats as they occur. So here we go. Just a quick look at the newspapers. This is fairly new, except for the Maersk case, which is something that always comes up when we talk about maritime attacks and cyber attacks in the maritime business. It's very much on the rise, and it's a huge problem, and managers know this, and the attackers know how much money it is to earn from this business because of the effect on global economy. So there's a huge increase in the attacks on the shipping business and the maritime industry. So this is something that we basically have to live with and deal with, it's not going to go away. The cybersecurity domains that me as a security professional have to deal with is quite large. There are many domains, and there's a lot of activities that we have to put into different tasks to be able to be secure or to have like a good security hygiene within the company. And there are so many of these that correlate and are kind of important, just just to have like basic security, but there are always some of them which are more like high level and some of them are more like low level. So what we're going to focus on today is the incident response part and threat detection, which is over in this area of the security operation. So being able to detect something bad in your environment and being able to respond to it. So what is needed to detect threats and to respond to incidents? There must be some way of collecting all the information that is related to threats and bringing them into a common place, a central location where we can work with these events and the security related data. So there must be some kind of analytics engine that can analyze the data, whether it's events from a firewall on the network, whether it's email from a certain domain or a sender, some things going on a computer or a server, or some cloud activity. Whatever the source of information is, we need to bring it into a common platform, and we need to analyze and correlate the data in a holistic way. Then we can apply relevant to our business and to how we operate in an IT environment. We can apply policies and detection mechanisms that are important for us. So being able to pick up the events that shouldn't happen, and then being able to effectively respond to those things, whether it's just to investigate and find out what's going on, or if it's to lock something out and shut it down and restore. So collecting security-related data needs to start with a complete overview of the network and your environment. You need to know what to protect. This is like a very simple drawing or illustration of our systems that I put in place. It's not at all complete, but it shows you just for a company like ours that we have so many different sources of information. We have the offices that are kind of the branch offices and the different locations we have across the globe. These are protected by firewalls, so we need to pull in this data. We have our on-premise systems. So we have, of course, ships that we manage IT systems on. These are considered on-premise. So there are servers there, and we have some security tools that we can pull data out of, and we need to get this into a central location. We also have other security tools. We have information that we as security professionals put into this analytics part. And we also have more like events coming from the cloud apps that we use, and all the user activity from identity management services and things like that. All of this is something that is our environment combined, and we need to look at this, and we need to have the overall approach when dealing with events. So we need to, as I said, feed it into an centrally analytics engine. And this is often something like a SIM that can correlate all this data and then do the analytics and notify us for any incident or specific events that we need to look into. So because we are in Azure, Microsoft Azure, it makes sense for us to use Azure Sentinel as this central tool. And it gives us the ability to pull in all the data. We can detect threats from a set of pre-configured and out-of-the-box functionality from Microsoft, which is always being updated. And it gives us the ability to search across all of these endpoints, because the information are pulled into the central location and we can search there. We don't have to go into all the different parts of our environment and do our analysis there. We just simply do it from a central location. And then it also gives us the ability to respond. So actually sending commands back to the different parts of the environment. So we're able to isolate, we're able to stop any threats that we think needs to be managed. And these actions can be configured at the same place as where we actually detect and work with the incidents. So it's basically one tool to kind of be the central point for where we work as with security operations. It gives us a plenty of graphs and ways to present the data to us. And of course, behind the scenes, there's a lot of automatic rules that help us to get this information and present it to us, because we don't want to deal with all of the millions of events coming into this system each day. We just want to focus on a few interesting cases and let the system deal with everything else. So there's a lot of not so interesting data that goes into this, and we need to filter those out and score it, and based on what kind of severity it is, we create a security incident or not. And this is something that Microsoft's AI stuff and machine learning helps us a great deal with. But the main thing here is that we are able to pull in all the different data sources to a common platform, and we can query for any threat-related information that we want from the same place. We can also do threat intelligence. So this means that we can subscribe to a service that will tell us what are the bad IPs, what are the different URLs or domains that hackers are using now, what are the kind of files they use, and we can feed this information automatically into the SIEM, and it will notify us if it sees these indicators on any of our systems. So if it's either a endpoint reaching out to one of these IPs, or if it's a file that has been downloaded through or executed through a Word document, this is the things that we can now detect, because we're able to see it in a very holistic way and bring all this data together. But of course, this is only for the known stuff, the known bad indicators that we use or that we see. So it means that someone has already identified it as malicious and then put it on a list, so we can then feed it into our detection capabilities or our detection engine. But what about the unknown stuff? Because an attacker can easily just change the files that they're using to attack a company. They can easily change the IP address or the domain names. So it's not even considered useful to even block domains that are sending phishing emails, for example, because the next day they will be using something else. So what is tough for the attackers, and that's why this pyramid of pain comes in. This is showing basically how hard it is for the attackers to move from one of these different indicator types or ways of delivering their attacks. So as I said, the IP addresses and hash values for the files, those are easy, but it's very hard to change their procedures, their tactics and techniques. This is kind of their behavioral pattern, how they get into your network in the first place, how they move around, and what tools they're using to do their job. Because this is something that they are doing for money. They will do the same procedures, tactics for many targets, and they will do this effectively because they want to earn as much money as possible. So they are reusing their techniques. So defenders, as us, we should really be focusing on the top level stuff, like the tactics and the behavioral of the attackers. And to detect a hacker, you need to think like one. And this is showing the kill chain. It really just shows how an attacker moves from the initial part where he decides to attack a company, and where they do their research. Then they deliver the attack, maybe from a phishing email. They establish some kind of foothold where they're able to then communicate back to their servers and maybe download other tools that they're going to use in their attack. And then they start working. Then they maybe need to escalate their privileges because the user that they have gained access to don't necessarily have the access level that they need to reach their target. So they do this reconnaissance around in the environment. They will try to move between servers. This is the lateral movement part, and they will establish persistence. So in case you find this attacker and you kick them out, they might have already established some other way in so they can come back in without you even noticing it. When they reach their goal, they will exfiltrate the data. This might be that they have stolen some important documents, maybe some financial stuff, maybe some sensitive data that they've stolen. Maybe they also left you with an environment that's completely encrypted, like they do in ransomware attacks. And now they have the key to your valuable data, and they've also exfiltrated the data so that they're able to actually post this online and ask for ransom, like double extortion, which is more common nowadays. So they will encrypt your data, but they also threaten you to pay it, to pay money. And if you don't, they will also publish the data that they've found. So you really need to think like a hacker. And yeah, this yeah, there it is. And how should you do this? From a hacker perspective, what does the company look like? So if you do like a scan of the network and the services that you provide outside, maybe what is the profile on the different employees? How could you start by attacking your company? Are there any services that you have exposed to the internet, for example? Anything like that. You need to know all about this, and you need to protect those. How would an attacker penetrate our network? So any of these services running, are they vulnerable? Are they not protected by MFA? Are they easy to attack? Can anyone download and run executables? So once they're inside the network, what are their options in terms of downloading new content that they can use in their attack? Can they also run these things without being stopped or being noticed? These are the things that you need to think about. And how easy is it to move laterally in the network or the environment? Can you easily find other services that are interesting to attack? And what about credentials? Are those stored in a secure way? Do you have passwords lying around in text files that's easy to remember for your admins or users? Are there access tokens stored in memory that's easy to download and use? These are also important things. But most importantly, in my mind, is what are the possible routes to get to your valuable data? What are the crown jewels in your environment? And how can you get to that data from any given system in your environment? This is what needs to be thought of as use cases, where you look at how to detect any access to this data that is not legitimate, that is not normal use. So for example, if someone starts to read this data in a way that a normal user wouldn't, like listing all the different files in an important directory, this is something you need to detect and respond to immediately. And lastly, how easy is it to steal or extract data from your environment to the internet? This is obviously a job not only for humans. We and many others will use artificial intelligence and introduce this as a tool in the security stack, because there's no way of that humans can actually respond fast enough. Ransomware attacks, they are so fast that within a few seconds after deployment, they will start to encrypt the data. And there's no tool that there is no human that actually can respond that fast. You need a tool that can be able to quickly identify and quickly stop those threats. And also, hackers are already using artificial intelligence, so why shouldn't you? So when you have all this established, not all, but at least some of it, you need to also do a very important part, which is to establish an incident response plan. So actually just preparing for the incident, because I guess many have heard it before. If you haven't already been hacked, you are going to be hacked. So you need to establish a team which will be the incident response team. And this is a team that will need to include different departments in the organization. And you should agree on the roles and responsibilities within this team. How should you communicate during an incident? Who is responsible for making decisions? All of these things needs to be established. Then you need to assess your own capabilities against potential attacks. So what's relevant for your business? How do you write these detection rules that can actually notify you of the things that are important to your business? That's very important. And it's also very important to measure how effective your security controls are against these kind of attacks. Then based on this assessment, you need to create a quick response procedures or guidelines that will help and assist your incident response team in a situation where there's an incident occurring. So this must include details about what to collect, what kind of evidence we need, how is the reporting going to go, who is responsible for making decisions during the incident. So for example, if we need to shut down a customer-facing system, we need to have the mandate to do that. And that needs to be agreed on before you go into this kind of situation. Test your incident response plan. This should be this could be done by performing exercises or drills. I would recommend to start fairly simple with small exercises that are very specific to a scenario, and then build on as you kind of grow the skills in your incident response process. This should include different types of roles within the organization as you established in the incident response team. Then, of course, learn and improve. It's the last step of any incident response process. You always go back and look, okay, what went well? What did we do wrong? What can we do to improve it so it doesn't happen again? And then turn this around and make it into the preparations you do for the next time. And that's it for me. I don't exactly know how much time I spent on this, but I think that was enough.
Yeah, that was great. It was 19
Right.
minutes. Yeah, no, thank
19.
you. Very good.
Yeah.
Should we just take these questions from Widsi Buwalda? We think he's IT systems manager with the Irish Navy. So he's asking if you want to name any specific threats. I mean, you didn't mention any specific threats, and he's also asking, are you segmenting your ship IT infrastructure between crew, navigation, engine, and safety systems? Do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, so of course there's obviously a lot of details that go into how you can protect your environment, and especially when it comes to segregating networks. That's really important in terms of ransomware attacks, because they will just try to spread all over the place. So network segregation is very important, and we do that on our vessels. And we have more of a specific and more capable security tools in the more important parts of the network, because as always, there's a challenge with the SATCOM and the bandwidth and all that. So we can't just deploy the same mechanisms that we have on land, that we can't just deploy those on the ship side, because we're dealing with a lot of data here all the time. It's about analyzing the data. So building the robust security is always very important, and segregation on the network is a very good thing to do.
Oh, and then maybe we take John Joyce's question. So he's asking about SIEM, that's a security information and event management. any issues it can't detect. I had an example myself. One of my websites had over 6,000 files, got the permissions changed yesterday, and I've no idea what that meant. Or I just put it back, but I don't know what any analytics would do. Would you have any thoughts on? I mean, there must be things it can't detect, I guess.
Yeah, of course. There's always depending on how much time, effort, resources you put into this. But we rely very much on the artificial intelligence part, which is notifying us on any anomaly in how admins are working, who is accessing different parts, who is accessing different SharePoint sites. So any anomaly around that is something that we get help from the machines to detect. But we also, from time to time, do threat hunting, and that goes into where we actually sit down and think of, okay, how does this what is actually who is actually doing this and this in our environment? We then check our systems and our security tools by asking our logs, where is this happening? And then we go in and analyze it as as a security analyst. But we very much rely on machines to do that part, to do the anomaly detection.
Oh, and then the other question from Weech, do you have any threats over the SATCOM system? Do you want to answer that? I don't think you covered that one. Yeah, that's a top question.
No, I'm not quite sure what the.
Well, he's asking for specific threats to the IT infrastructure, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we can talk about.
Yeah, I can route that question back to our vessel fleet guys, but basically also we rely on the SATCOM vendors to provide some kind of protection also, and we filter a lot of the traffic also going outside. But yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the SATCOM vendor does on the DDoS parts, but I guess they must be doing something.
Oh, that's great. Okay, well, I think we're going to the second presentation, and there should be time for questions more on cybersecurity at the end. And also, if you want to put them in on type, perhaps Ordner can answer them with written while this one's going on. But I'd like to welcome Kristin Aspeland, who's the CEO and co-founder of Ankeri. So I just looked up, Reykjavik is 910 miles northwest of Bergen, but you'll need a private jet to do that directly. So we're going to talk about the best way to build a data infrastructure for environmental social governance. Ankeri is a cloud-based platform for chartering, operations, and technical teams. Going to look at administrating the data streams from vessels, bringing the data into a chartering workflow, and telling the charterers how much emissions are being made. So Kristin founded Ankeri with a friend in 2016, and before that he was co-founder of Marorka in Iceland, which provides digital marine energy management services, and he's on the board of directors of the Association of Icelandic Startup Companies. So I'd like to invite Kristin to give the talk. Cheers, thanks.
Thanks a lot, Carl. Hi. I'll share a screen here. Let's see if the technical stuff works as it should be. Hi, I'm Kristin. I'm CEO and co-founder of Ankeri. Ankeri Solutions, we're a scale-up software company headquartered here in Reykjavik, Iceland. And we recently received €2 million venture funding to solve shipping transparency problem. Yeah, one would ask himself, does shipping have a transparency problem? And well, yes, it does. In shipping, just like in any other business around the world now, we are increasingly relying on data for running our business. And it's never actually been easier to collect data from ships, more possibilities to do it. But we are still relying quite heavily on manual reports being sent from the vessels to ashore, but also more and more common to get sensor data accessible ashore. But in reality, when you have a fleet of vessels, you start to see numerous systems, different types of systems, different versions, different structure of data coming from the vessels. And you also have many stakeholders from the ship owner, management teams, commercial teams, brokers, charterers, all needing to have different views on what's going on. And the problem is that with increased data streams that you're having, the complexity increases, as there have been no tools to manage or administrate your data feeds. It can become quite messy quite fast, and actually there can be quite a lot of manual effort going into managing it, and this can break quite easily. So actually there are many companies that have been investing in this kind of data infrastructure, and the data has not been used for the full potential, and still relying on gut feeling and manual data. So basically it's a lot of dark data that's being collected, data that's not useful for anything, and just being collected for collecting data. So what's the solution? How can we actually start to use the data for our business, and at the same time providing that we have the transparency and traceability to our operation, ensure that we have the full governance in our ESG. So what we've done in Ankeri, we've established the platform architecture infrastructure that can help you take control of your data streams. This way you can administrate your data, collect the data, ensure accessibility to the correct stakeholders to draw valuable insights and automate the workflows. So you can feed the data into your apps, into your BI tools, data lakes or web apps, and control the access to the data, and in a secure way, relating to our previous talks here. And so it's a way that you can take all your data investment and make it accessible. So we in Ankeri, we are working on digitalizing the shipping industry. Ankeri creates a cloud-based software platform for ship owners and charterers to leverage the data and collaborate for improved performance and increased profitability. Meaning for charterers, they can use Ankeri to select the best fitting ships for the trade based on data, and the ship owners can now profile and market the ships based on the performance data and actual insights into the vessels. Our software as a service enterprise software solutions are tailored for shipping companies. We've built our data connections hub as a platform that makes shipping data accessible and manageable. And by leveraging that data infrastructure, we provide a suite of productivity and decision support for fleet and chartering, using data to provide transparency and traceability. And now, actually introducing for the first time our new Aware app, which is a Strava-like activity feed, drawing attention to performance and sustainability of the vessels. Our data connections hub, it's a scalable cloud-based big data infrastructure, consolidating time series data streams from any source systems, transforming them and making them readily available in consistent, secure, and granular manner, both to internal and external stakeholders. So the data connections hub gives you a tool to fetch and transform time series, noon report data, or any source system that you have on board the vessels, and convert it to a structured format that you can use either internally or secure for on vessel by vessel status to the stakeholders needing to get access to that data. It's a future-proof big data storage and infrastructure where you can validate the data and verify it. Gives you an easy data governance platform and robust and customizable APIs. So pretty much your ship data switchboard, more or less, and gives you infrastructure to turn the data really into value. To leveraging that platform, we have created our apps here in fleet and chartering, which is really the next gen fleet and chartering productivity tool for ship operators and owners that improves decision making and reduces waste through digital automation, transparency, and communication. In fleet and chartering, we have ship and terminal master data management profile for managing ship and terminal profiles, where you have the specifics and of every ship in your fleet and every terminal that you're visiting. We can provide you with a tool to share with your customers through a portal the same data, making sure that everybody are working from the same information and have then the transparency needed. Fleet and chartering has a questionnaire workflows built in, automating workflows and making sure that you can reduce double entry of data into systems. We help you optimizing vessel deployment evaluation based on best fit for a service for every vessel. You can share incident reports with your counterparties, and you can manage event maintenance and technical improvements planning. But above all, in your organization, it's the people that actually make the gains in performance and sustainability measures. And to do that, you need to get everybody involved. And what we went out with designing our new Ankera Aware was to make this a fun and engaging way to make performance and sustainability information readily available to the whole enterprise using an app that's both familiar and easy to use. So we went for a mobile first application, and many of us know these sports apps like Strava. So making this a activity feed in a Strava-like way, or Strava for ships, with rich notification support, and again, making the data that you're already collecting, create insights to the people, leveraging the data connections hub infrastructure by automatically aggregate the fleet data and operational data from the autolog data, noon reports, or the various data services around. Ankeri has already been accessible for more than and used by more than 100 companies around the world. Hapag-Lloyd, they've chosen us to provide them with fleet overview and digitize the chartering process. Ankeri is used company-wide at Hapag-Lloyd, and we've replaced numerous local data sets and provide single source of information and truth with auditable decision processes, ensuring the governance of the processes. And I've seen a quite good feedback and company-wide usage. So I'd love to get some questions on how we can help you leveraging your existing data sources to automate the workflows and build data infrastructure to support your ESG activity, maybe more the E and G and the ESG emissions and governance part. But yeah, love to take questions now. And here's also my direct email if anybody wants to hook up later on.
Well, thank you very much. So we're going to the Q&A part of the session. So please load up any questions you've got into the Q&A box. I mean, just a question for, you turn your video off, Christian? Oh, you're on here, sorry. And I mean, just a question I've got. So you've got two directions you're going in. One is consolidating data, and one is the whole software, and they're very, very opposite in a development perspective. But you're doing both. This is also a theme that came out in the first session. You know, you want data being really good, and you want this fantastic software. Do you see them as together or very different angles, do you think?
Actually, to draw, actually we started building the software for creating value out of the data, and then we realized that, well, we need to manage all this data, and so we created that kind of structure as well, and we've seen that there's quite a lot of need for that around. So actually, that's how it came to be, and I think it's maybe two sides of the same coin, really. And but in reality today, there are quite a lot of possibilities to structure the data in a better way to make sure that it can actually be used, and so that's how actually we came to this position, having maybe a little bit two directions, but there may be two streams going in the same direction.
Oh, very good. Okay, well, maybe a good theme to start the discussion. I don't know if you're there. Maybe you want to turn the camera on, but just thinking with this event, we're trying to help people get up to date with what's been changing in the industry and what the demands are. I mean, the pictures I've got, I mean, cybersecurity, you know, if you wanted to leave people with a way to hold in their heads where we are, I think with cybersecurity, the complexity is still there, but the tools are getting better to manage it. And then with the environmental data, there's more and more demands, and we're still at quite early stages of doing it, but there's also tools being developed. That's the kind of summary I've got from the talks. I don't know, if you imagine the audience being IT managers of shipping companies, I think they mainly are. What do you think, if you had to tell people how you think things have changed in the last year and what they need to be aware of most of all that this change? Is any thoughts come into your mind about that one?
Yeah, well, one one particular is that the part with the shared responsibility, that we really need to make people understand that security isn't just a task for one or two guys within the IT department. It's something that everyone has to take part in, and they need to understand why everyone should consider themselves as targets, because getting in is just one of the things that the cyber criminals will do, and it's just being able to understand that when they have access, they will try to do something else. So you might be just one small piece of the puzzle. And of course, I also want to highlight the importance of getting a strong security partner. Building this competence internally is one solution, of course, if you have the budget and resources to do that. But it's not for everyone. So you might want to resource or to outsource some of the capabilities to a security vendor, and maybe some smaller companies would like to outsource everything. But having that partnership and build on it for many years is very important, I believe.
And that's what you do at G2 Ocean, presumably.
We have a mix. So we of course have a lot of these capabilities in-house, but we see that some of these are important for to have others help us with, to say it like that. But we don't have a fully managed SOC service that we subscribe to. So most of these things are built in automation, and yeah, we use a lot of tools to be able to build this defense for our company.
Oh, that's great. And maybe the same question for Christian: how you think things have changed over the past year that IT managers should know about? I mean, I guess there's been massively more pressure on environmental data and massively more development in tools like yours that help manage it. And I guess they need to keep up to date with the demands and what's possible, I suppose. Is that how you see it, do you think?
Yeah, that's right. It's been a lot of development in the past years, and it's possibility now to get quite a lot of data, and as an IT manager, you really have to get on top of it. Also, to make sure that the data is going in the right direction and to the right people. It really touches up on the security issue here as well. That you need to build your infrastructure on how and what you're collecting, and making sure that you're feeding that information in the right direction, and the right people have timely access to the information that's been possible now to draw from the data. And these are quite specific tasks, so I guess but the tendency has maybe been to try to develop everything in-house, but with larger fleets, maybe charted in, charted out, you really need the tools, and that's where we hope that we can assist as well, at least for that part. And but this, I think, in your whole environment, you have to look at it in that way, that you need to design it in a way that it does the job in a secure way.
Yeah, I was very interested. You mentioned time series data in the earlier slide, because I think the shipping industry is used to emailing files. It's not used to this sensor logger every 5 minutes, I suppose that's what it is, or a fuel flow meter from the fuel tank. That's the kind of data we're talking about here, isn't it? And
exactly. And gives you a lot of more, not a lot more insights into what's happening on board the vessels, and you can dig a lot deeper into what's going on, and try to get better understanding, and create automatic responses to it even.
Yeah. Do you have any, on a cybersecurity perspective with the ESG data? I guess if you're just dealing with data files, you can't hack anything, but I guess it's never that simple, is it? There's always things you can get into, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, it's it has to be designed in a secure way, exactly. But yeah, both when you're working with files, and also when you're looking at these data feeds, and the better structure you have around it, then better chances that you can manage the security part as well.
Yeah. And then coming to Arno, if anybody, go on.
Yeah, I think the focus is very often to make things work and to get to the data, so that the people that need the data get it as fast as possible. And then often security is added somewhere along, when everyone's happy and they're close to start using the product, then security gets added, and then we start to block things. But instead, it should be really defined on how and who and when needs access to this data. Under what circumstances do we not want to provide access to the data, and then build from there, because there's no need for all devices that's hooked up to a vessel that they don't all need internet access. They don't need to be able to pivot around in the environment to other servers or machines. So limiting that exposure and the ability for any hacker to move around in the network and to infiltrate and to damage other parts is very crucial.
Yeah. If anybody in the audience has any questions, if you want to put them in the Q&A box, I've got a couple more of my own, but then I guess we can finish. But I guess an important thing I got from your talk was there's been a lot of advances in these monitoring systems, because if a system can do what you said, it can say, look, this is your problem, this is what you should do about it. That's an enormous advance over a couple of years ago, isn't it?
Yeah, enormous advances has happened, and I remember when I started to work with security monitoring, it was all a manual job, and I had to sit down and decide for all the different use cases very much in detail how I would pick each event up and what we should do with it. So today it's more of a set of detection capabilities you get out of the box, and then you add your own custom stuff on top of that. So many of these products, they will work very well out of the box to a general environment, but of course you should always think about how your particular IT environment will be affected, or how would the actual attacker be able to, how would you detect them in your part or your special environment. So, but yeah, a lot of improvements have been made there, and with the speed that attackers are moving and their capabilities, we need to trust these tools, and we need to make them or make them able to make decisions for us, because that's much better than coming in later. And you might have an email in your inbox saying that yesterday, Saturday night, there was a ransomware detection, but we didn't do anything about it. And then this is the message that you have to deal with on Monday morning. It's much better to have that artificial intelligence and automation part actually stop the threat at the early stage, and then you can go in and do your job. I guess that most will agree with that.
We heard a lot from Kristin from G2 Ocean in the first session about your cloud-first strategy. So I guess this extends to the cybersecurity. We're talking about all these things are cloud-based, and they're probably all developed for industries at large. They're not just shipping specific things. So you've got a lot more development effort goes into them, is that?
Yeah. And also it feels like they're developed for big American companies sometimes, because when you look at the complexity of many of these features that you get in the cloud, because there are many features that you can simply just enable by clicking a button, but the complexity behind it, in order to make it work as intended, it's very high. It's very advanced, and you often think that, okay, maybe a team of 20 people is not enough. This seems like we need to be 200 in order to get this thing working. So I think that many of these tools can be a bit overwhelming, but there's always a way of using them in a more default and simple way, and that's why what we try to do all the time, to pick the tools that will work for us in kind of to our scale, but also give us the better protection and the benefits of using a security product like Microsoft delivers, and others that we use. So it's really yeah, of course, a cost benefit question, but there are some smart decisions that you can do to be able to have a much higher protection than you might think.
Well, very good. So maybe a sort of closing remarks, Kristin. I mean, where do you want to give any thoughts on where we're going over the next year? I mean, I guess we can see there's enormous attention on emissions, or there's more and more demands, more and more data is going to be needed. Companies are going to have to think a lot more carefully about how they get the right data to the right people, and they're probably going to be talking to companies like yours a lot more, I think. Do you want to give some closing thoughts on where we're going over 2022, do you think?
Yeah, I think the big task is to get the right data to the right people at the right time, and because like for the emissions and the performance, most of the time you already have quite a good insight into your vessels, but that's maybe sitting with the technical team that is really is maybe looking more into past performances and things like that. But then the big decisions maybe are made more on the commercial side, and you need then the tools to be able to have that insight available when you make the decisions, so you actually can do anything about it, because otherwise you're just looking at the past. So you have to get this organize the data and the intelligence in a way that it can be accessible in a quick way when you actually need to make the decision. So, and then you don't have the bandwidth to start analyzing in any structured way. So you need to build the infrastructure and the tools available so you can actually use the data for something. And then it comes to tools, automating things, and ensuring that you have the transparency and that you can transparency to the decisions, that you are making decisions based on data that then ensures the governance part of it.
Yeah. Well, what's your perspective? We had a lot of discussion in the first session about control of data, shipping companies saying that they want to own data and their vendors making it hard. Well, do you have any perspective on that? Do you treat it that the data belongs to the shipping company, or do you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
The data belongs to the owner or the shipping or the providing party of the data. So we look at ourselves as a medium to get the data structured and analyzed and get the insights to the right people. And but the data itself is an asset that the company own, and they should try to leverage that asset to improve the business in the best way possible.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Odno, any closing thoughts?
No, not anything more specifically. Just yeah, the importance of really having the support from management, I guess, because it's not going to happen by itself. To build a security program is kind of a long journey. So the number one key point is to have management on board, and it needs to happen because yeah, this as long as you're using IT, you need to have some kind of capabilities and yeah, ways to deal with this problem. So yeah.
Well, thank you very much, both of you. I think that both talks shown great ways how shipping industry is changing and the challenges for IT managers for this year, and what's coming up is very different to it was last time. And we'll be back in 45 minutes getting into AI for navigation, which is another completely new subject. So I'll pass back to Vida. Cheers.
Yes, thank you. From my side, I hope that now you have a better understanding on ways managing digital systems and some trends in shipping in this area nowadays. Thanks to Adne, Christian, for sharing your ways of doing it. And as Carl said, we are coming back after 45-minute lunch break to our third session on navigation and AI. So join us at 1 p.m. London time. Our virtual conference continues. We'll see you very soon. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.